Sir, now proceed, sir. Hello? Sir? Hello?
சொல்லுங்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா?
ஓகே ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க சார். ஓகே சார். ஓகே.
யூடியூப் வந்துருச்சுங்களா?
லிங்க் பண்ணி கொடுத்துட்டேன் சார் நானு.
ஓகே. Okay, so sorry
mute
about
all,
that.
Sir, you are mute all, sir. You can give the mute all.
Okay.
வந்துருச்சுங்க சார் மேல. சார் மியூட் ஆல் கொடுத்துருங்க சார். நீங்களே மியூட் ஆல் போட்டுருங்க.
Okay. Where is the mute all? Yeah, already mute all. Okay.
Go to the participant and you can see the below the right side. You can view participant list. You can mute the all.
I think you have to give me the host, then only I can mute.
Okay. Please.
Okay, I think everything is okay now. Sorry about that delay. So everybody is hearing, right?
Please, all the participants mute the audio and the video. Mute.
Okay. Kumaran, you are hearing me, right?
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are hearing you.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry about the delay. So I'm going to talk about alternative therapy for oral disease.
Yes.
Exploring the newer possibilities. So first, before I go talk about the natural medicine, I wanted to share with you guys all what I'm going to do and what I'm already doing the research past 23 years in USA. So first thing is I'm mainly focusing on lactoferrin. The lactoferrin is a multifunctional protein which has antimicrobial, anti-tumor, antiviral activities. And mainly this is secreted in milk and also all the external secretions, which includes saliva, vaginal fluid, semen, and tears. But mainly in the abundantly present secreted in milk. As we all know that in newborn infant, like we said in Tamil, தாய்ப்பால் the குழந்தைகளுக்கு சிறந்தது. So that means this is because the infant immunity is very weak. So the lactoferrin and other antimicrobial proteins and other compounds which is secreted abundantly in the milk, especially in the cholesterol milk during first 1 or 2 days. So that the lactoferrin will protect the newborn babies from infection, and also it helps to develop the immune systems. So same thing, that saliva also secreted the human lactoferrin, So we wanted to study how this lactoferrin regulate in the oral cavity and fight against the infection. The lactoferrin has 2 functions. One is antimicrobial and antibactericidal activity, and also bacteriostatic activities. So the bacteriostatic means it is not directly killing the bacteria, but virtually it will sequester the iron from the oral environment, and then it is unable to get the iron from bacteria, so that in the bacteria will die due to this iron unavailability. The second functionality is bactericidal activities. So it is directly killing the bacteria. So that is a 2 ways. So we wanted to study how this effect is. So the first thing, we wanted to focus more on dental caries, especially in the early childhood caries, that is year 2 to 6-year-old kids. They have more prone to caries or cavities, because they eat a lot of sugar, candies, and also feeding the milk during the night time, so that it's more prone to the caries. So we focus that on how this lactoferrin plays important role. So for here, fortunately, we developed a lactoferrin knockout mouse model, so which does not produce the protein. So what we are doing now is, what we did is, we wanted to compare with the lactoferrin knockout versus the wild type mice. So the wild type mice has the lactoferrin. So what we did is we inoculate the Streptococcus mutans in the 3 weeks old mice, and then we let it go for 5 weeks. After 5 weeks, we sack the mice and clean the jaws, and we stained with the alizarin so that we can visualize more carious lesions. When you look at this, the control, both one lactoferrin knockout and wild type mice, we could not see any carious lesions. Whereas in the lactoferrin knockout mice, which does not produce the protein, which has more carious lesions when compared to the wild type mice. So which suggests that the lactoferrin has more effect. It has a protective effect. So because there is a lack of protein, the bacteria grow more, and also it secrete a lot of lactic acid, and it corrode the enamel, and it causes destructive carious lesions. Whereas the Streptococcus mutans, exogenously we administered the human lactoferrin so that this will protect against the infection. Both wild type and also the lactoferrin knockout mice. So this study suggests that the lactoferrin has a protective effect against Streptococcus mutans, so that it will protect effect against, prevent the caries. So the another study we wanted to study, you guys are all aware that iron deficiency anemia. So that is, like a third world countries and developed, underdeveloped countries, they have like kids has more prone to iron deficiency anemia, especially even in India also has a lot of reports on iron deficiency anemia. So we wanted to see whether really what happened to the iron deficiency anemia to the kids from 2 to 6 year age. So when we did the experiment, the same mouse model, the wild type mouse, we feed the mice with different type of diets. One is regular diet, which has a 48 ppm iron. It's a very normal diet for mice. The other diet is iron deficient diet. It is a very low, and feed them for 5 weeks. And we inoculate the Streptococcus mutans, as this is a cardiogenic bacteria. So we did the experiment, and which suggests that the iron deficiency anemic mice has more prone to carious lesions when compared to standard feed the mice. So this is also suggests, when you look at this, the D, that is iron deficient diet fed mice, with the Streptococcus mutans, when you look at this, it has a more carious lesions when compared to other groups. Even without the Streptococcus mutants, just the IDA, that iron deficient anemic mice, has also carious lesions. So this is very interesting finding, as most of the animal model, which is so far proven that only the Streptococcus mutants infected mice causing the carious lesions. And also other cardiogenic bacteria. So this is the first report we demonstrated that the iron deficient diet itself causing the carious lesions. And also very interestingly, when you look at this incisors, when you see the mice, the front teeth, when you fed with the cardiogenic diet with the iron deficient diet on the standard diet, so when you look at this, the milky color, the A is a iron deficient fed mice tooth. When compared to the normal diet, it's a pigmentation, the brown pigmentation, which protect, the enamel for to prevent the lactic acid corrosions. So which suggests that here also the iron deficient mice has more carious lesions when compared to standard diet, which suggests that iron deficiency anemia is causing carious lesions. And also the maternal iron deficiency anemia, which cause more pups become alopecia areata. So this is another finding. We demonstrated that when you fed the pregnant mice with iron deficient diet, the pups born which has the hair loss. So this is another proven method. We showed that iron deficient plays important role, not only just the carious lesions, but also other So the another method, we project 4. So morphological features of murine tongue with oral candidiasis. That is another project we did with Candida albicans. The Candida albicans is a commensal pathogen which has one immunocompromised. Then you can it produce the hyphae and which cause oral thrush or white patches. So here also we did the animal model. So what we did is we grow the Candida albicans and infect with wild type as well as the lactoferrin knockout mice and feed the Candida albicans. So the control group, the tongue is like a normal, whereas wild type infected mice, you can see the reddish and small lesions also form. Whereas when you treat it with the lactoferrin, it becomes normal. The lactoferrin knockout mice tongue has, all covered with the white patches. It's typically the candidiasis. The lactoferrin knockout mice, when you fed with the human lactoferrin protein, which prevent the, like a colonization of Candida albicans, so that there is no prevent the thrush. So this is also suggests that the lactoferrin plays an important role for preventing not only just the bacteria, but also the fungus called Candida albicans. And also this, not only on the tongue, when you usually see the patients with immunocompromised patients, HIV patients, and also iron deficient anemic patients, then other, like chemotherapy patients, they have like more prone to immunosuppressed, so that they can see not only on the tongue but also the palatal surfaces they have in white patches. So we wanted to compare with wild type and also lactoferrin knockout. So the knockout mice, the protein does not produce in the lactoferrin knockout mice, which has more white patches when compared to the other. So this is also suggests that like the lactoferrin, if there is no lactoferrin, the infection is more and which cause more lesions. So this is not only oral, we are focusing on how the oral pathogens which get into the bloodstream. We call it as a candidemia. It's a destructive and also most like a 4th hospital death in US because of the Candida albicans and also Staphylococcus aureus together, which forms a candidemia and bacteremia. So here also what we did is we injected the Candida albicans intravenously, and also we injected the lactoferrin also to protective effect, which also suggests that the lactoferrin knockout mice kidney, look at this kidney, lactoferrin knockout kidney, which has more foci, infection foci when compared to wild type mice. When you add back the lactoferrin in the lactoferrin knockout mice, which reduce the foci so that, we to prevent the hyphal formations, which is evidence from the stained with silver stain. It specifically binds to Candida albicans or fungus, which when you look at this, the sections, we take the kidney sections, the foci mainly focus on this, which will filled with a lot of hyphae and yeast cells. So not only the inflammatory cells, but also the hyphae and foci. So which also suggests that the lactoferrin plays an important role, not only protecting the oral, but also once it get into the bloodstream and which cause binding to different organs and causing the distant infections, so that which also prevent systematic. And also another very interesting study we did with the diabetes. So usually we know that diabetes causing a lot of problems, not only just blood glucose level increase, but also systemically, which produce a lot of things. One of them is oral. So that is the main, prolonged diabetic patients, they have like a lot of problems with oral diseases. So mainly this is a periodontal disease. So we are mainly focusing on aggregatibacter actinomycetum commentans, that is the bacteria which cause aggressive periodontitis. So here also we did with, we induced a diabetes in mice, both wild type and lacto-free knockout mice. And which shows that, to look at this bottom right, this is a lacto-free knockout mice with diabetic. The mice shows severe alveolar bone loss when compared with wild type with diabetes. And also diabetic itself without infecting with the bacteria, which also causing the bone loss. So which suggests that the diabetic patients is more prone to periodontal disease, even though the pathogenic bacteria which is not affected. So far, this is a few of the projects. It's an ongoing project, and continuously we are working in my lab. So far we are doing, now we are mainly focusing on oral microbiome and also gut microbiome, how this oral microbiome related to gut microbiome. That's we are focusing right now, currently going on the project. Now we are coming to the topic, that is now, as we are all know that the different type of antibiotics prescribed by doctors, physicians, dentists, when you go to see them, it's not only one class of antibiotic. There are several class, and also first generation, second generation, third generation. There are so many antibiotics commercially available. Every year it's coming to protect. Why do they produce a lot of antibiotic? What is the necessary? Why don't this one antibiotic which control the infections? So it is a big problem now because of the too many antibiotics and too many, prescription. So this is a big problem to control the infections. We are going to see how this natural medicine is placed in an important role because of this too much antibiotic, prescription. So the antibiotics are extremely important in medicine, but unfortunately, the bacteria are capable of developing resistance to them. When bacteria are exposed to the same antibiotics over and over, the bacteria are no longer affected by the drug. So the bacteria have a number of ways to become antibiotic resistant because it has a protective mechanism. There are three ways we can say that the bacteria possess an internal mechanism of changing their structure so the antibiotic no longer works. And also they develop ways to inactivate or neutralize the antibiotic. Also, the bacteria can transfer the genes coding for antibiotic resistance. So that a lot of bacteria, fungus, and other viral, it gets resistance against different antimicrobial and antibiotics. The resistance to antibiotics poses a serious and growing problem because some infectious diseases are become more difficult to treat because the resistant bacteria do not respond to antibiotics and continue to cause infection. So some of these resistant bacteria can be treated with more powerful antibiotics, but there are some infections that are difficult to cure even with the newer or experimental drugs. So the drug development from natural product is currently emerging as a highly promising strategy to identify novel antimicrobial agents. There are several alternative products from plants which exhibit therapeutic properties, including antimicrobial effect. However, their use in conventional treatment is not well received because certain doubts linger over the multiplicity of compounds present in them and also their potential cytotoxic effects. And also the problem with why the natural products is have a problem is because of unknown mechanism of actions. So we wanted to address these mechanisms, how these natural products, the mechanism that is without that in the commercial world, the pharmaceutical companies, they won't sell this, and also the FDA and other agencies for each countries, they won't accept these drugs. So just we are focusing this why I choose garlic. Every day we eat garlic. Without garlic, most of the country, not only India, all the world, they eat garlic. So when you look at this table, very interesting, like the penicillin they discovered in 1929, and also its clinical use started at 1940, but we found that the resistance first identified in 1943, within the 3 years, they see the strains, they identified the strains against, resistant against penicillin. Same thing from other, class of antibiotics, streptomycin, tetracycline, vancomycin. So all of them, they, identified the resistance very quickly. But garlic, since 1858, officially they discovered garlic, so far never reported that any bacteria which is resistant to garlic. So the garlic has antimicrobial properties, immunomodulatory roles, and anti-cancer therapy. Lot of advantage of this garlic. So mainly my study is, after a few slides, I will show you my findings of how this garlic plays an important role in preventing the oral diseases. My objective of this study is we attempted to identify a compounds which is responsible for antimicrobial function in natural products and to understand the molecular mechanism of the antibacterial effect. And also to develop a therapeutic agent that will be effective in the oral cavity in terms of potency, substantivity with minimal side effects. Various chemical agents have been evaluated over the years with respect to their antimicrobial effects, but their side effects prohibit their long-term use. That's one of the main causes. Even for antibiotic, it protects against infection, but at the same time, it gives a lot of side effects. It is also possible that alternative therapeutic agents may be better than the conventional pharmaceutical agents in terms of potency and exhibiting the least side effects. One such alternative is garlic extract. There are several reports on garlic extract which demonstrating the antibacterial, antiviral, antioxidant, anti-diabetic, antifungal, and anti-tumor activities mediated through multipotent phytochemicals, proteins, and enzymes. The potency of garlic has been acknowledged for 500 years. In ancient times, the garlic was used as a remedy for intestinal disorders, worms, respiratory infections, skin diseases, wounds, symptoms of aging, and many other ailments. Through the Middle Age into World War II, they used the garlic to treat the wounds for the warriors. It was also, they ground the garlic, slice them, applied directly onto the wounds to inhibit the spread of infections. Today, more than 3,000 publications from all over the world have gradually confirmed the traditionally recognized health benefit of garlic. Favorable experimental and clinical effects of the consumption of garlic preparations, which is garlic extract, have been reported. So the biological responses, which includes reduction of risk factors for cardiovascular diseases and cancer, a stimulation of immune function, enhanced foreign compounds detoxification, radio protection, restoration of physical strength, resistant to various stresses and potential anti-aging effects. So mainly the garlic, when you go to the market and shop the garlic, you won't see any, you don't get the smell. But once you crushed or cut the garlic, immediately we get the, some odor, the garlic smell, that is sulfur compounds. So that is the mainly important compound in garlic. The chemical analysis of garlic oil, which showed 54.5% of the total sulfates, which is DAS, that is a diallyl monosulfide, diallyl disulfide, and also diallyl trisulfide. So which inhibits a lot of different bacteria, not only just oral bacteria, but also very important, like a systemic bacteria which cause bacteremia and other things like a Helicobacter pylori, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and pneumonia, Klebsiella pneumonia. There are, and also commercial source of DAS compound that is also available, and also it's very less expensive when compared to antimicrobial agents and antibiotics. Little attention has been paid to them so far with respect to their antimicrobial activity. So here my main focus is this garlic has a lot of compounds, phenols and other proteins, but we wanted to focus with one single compound which has more potent against the pathogen. So that is our main objective of this study. As I just to mention that once you crush the garlic or cut the garlic, immediately you will get the sulfur smell. That is because the allicin. So how the allicin compound is produced. Actually, when you look at this allicin, it's not an antibiotic, it is a compound. During crushing, the enzyme allinase removes the circle part of this allicin. The second is then the enzymes takes two halves from two allicin molecule, and then the two halves are joined. Then immediately the water is releasing, the water molecules. Then the results of the compound is allicin. So once the water is removed, it's a completely, upon heating, the allicin become diallyl sulfide, which is even not an antibiotic, but which has a more potent than the antibiotic. So the structures of organosulfur compounds from both garlic. So once the allicin is an unstable compound, within a minute it will be disintegrated into different compounds. It starts with the allicin, then immediately the diallyl sulfide, diallyl disulfide, diallyl trisulfide. So it's gradually go for another 20 compounds. So mainly our study is mainly focused on these three: diallyl sulfide, diallyl disulfide, diallyl trisulfide. We see these are first three products of the allicin. There are several reports which shows that the antimicrobial activities of DAS against different pathogens, but none of them they showed the mechanism of action. So just they said in the different that it has killing effect. So first what we did is, we wanted to test first, before you go for compound, we wanted to see whether the garlic has any effect on a bacteria called Aggregatibacter actinomycetum comitans, which cause, it is a commensal pathogen. Once it become virulent, the children's, young adolescents, they have this localized aggressive periodontitis. So this forms a very vigorous biofilm, not only on the biotic surface and also abiotic surface as well. So we wanted to check whether the garlic has any effect on the biofilm of the AA, a short form, the bacteria I can call after hereafter, that is AA. This is abbreviation of Aggregatibacter actinomycetum comitans. So the first two is the PBS treated AA. When you look at this, what we did is we grow the bacteria, add the garlic extract into the bacteria, incubated for 2 hours, and then serially diluted and plate them on 96 well plates. So it's a duplicate, the PBS treated one, which shows a vigorous biofilm forms on the plate. When you look at this, when you serially dilute it, when you see, you can count the bacteria colonies. Whereas when you look at this garlic treated AA, we could not see any bacteria, even the highest concentration, even 10 to the power of -1. So which suggests that the garlic has potent against the antibacterial activities against the AA. So this is very interesting for me as a botanist, even though I'm working on different, other medical related field, proteins and enzymes. But this is, as a botanist, I wanted to see why this garlic has more potent against the. So what I did is, the garlic, when you crush the garlic, it has a highly concentrated. So we wanted to dilute. How dilute this? The lowest concentration, minimal concentration, MIC. I wanted to test. So that we diluted, highest concentration, diluted 10 times, diluted 100 times. Still, they has more effect when compared to when you look at this PBS. So what I did is, what is the compound which is antimicrobial potent in the garlic, whether it is a compound, organosulfur compound, or protein. So we wanted to check to differentiate between these. So what we did is, we incubate the bacteria with the garlic extract and also the proteinase K. So if there is any protein, if you add the proteinase K, that will degrade. So that we will see the when you look at it here, the garlic extract has more than 3 log, 4 log reductions. And still, when you add the proteinase K, the garlic extract has also very, 3, 4 log reductions. So that means the protein, not only the protein, but also the other than the protein, there is a compound which has an antimicrobial activity against AA. So this is very interesting point, because, the garlic, when usually, nobody, we eat garlic raw unless we, funny thing, but always we use for when you cooking the garlic. So you may ask one question, what would happen if you cook the garlic? Whether that will be ineffective against bacteria or still it is active against bacteria. So we want to have a different conditions. So the first one is, we wanted to, first what we did is, we crush the garlic, take the extract, and then we heat them 100 degrees centigrade with a different time point. We cook 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. We check, then we incubate this extract with AA and serially diluted, plate them and count the colonies, which has some, even 60 minutes, 1 hour at 100 degrees centigrade, still it has a potent antimicrobial activities. When you look at this protein level, the total protein level in garlic, so once you started 15 minutes, completely the proteins are degraded. So that means there is no protein involved in killing of AA, which shows here the log CFUs. When you run onto the gel, the protein, what are all the proteins, degraded? So here we can see the lane 1, you can see these are garlic proteins. When the heat different, 15, 30, 40, 60 minutes, most of the garlic proteins are degraded. Then what we did is, so 20 minutes we are taking now, but at different temperatures, 40 degrees centigrade, 60 degrees centigrade, 80 degrees centigrade, 100. So what is the effect of these things? Which also suggests still 100 degree, 20 minutes, 60. So whatever you cooking time or you heat the garlic, still it has a potent against the bacteria. And also we measure that protein as well, which suggests that the 80 and 100 degree, you will see there is no protein. Whereas 40 degree and 60 degree, you can able to see the proteins, the 2 and 3 lanes. So which also suggests that the proteins is degraded when you heat the sample 180 degrees centigrade for 20 minutes. And when you treat with the garlic extract 100 degrees C, different time point also, which reduce completely the proteins. So, and also we wanted to purify the proteins and check, each protein's fractions, how the effect is. So we use the garlic protein purification, which is characterization using SP Cephros column chromatography techniques. So we fractioned the proteins when you can able to see the fractions of purified proteins, and also check them, wherever the protein is present, the 3, 4, 11, 13, and check them against bacteria. We incubate these fractions. We purified the protein, dialysis, concentrate, and then we check the effect of antimicrobial effect of this compound against AA, which also suggests that we could not be able to, same things we can able to still see. So that means it suggests that the compound plays an important role. There is no effect on this. So as we know that there is a compound called DAS, DADS, DATS. So now we commercially available these compounds. We purchased these compounds and tested this against this. When you look at this first row is a PBS, which treated bacteria which forms vigorously the biofilms. Whereas when you treated with different compounds, it's a 5 minutes killing of time exposure, not 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 2 hours, just to 5 minutes, incubate the bacteria with this compound and test it. So which also suggests this all 3 compounds has more potent antimicrobial activity against the pathogens. And also we compare with biofilm. The biofilm is a plaque sample. If you are not properly brush your teeth, it will the bacteria will accumulate more and it forms a biofilm. So millions of bacteria which grow each other and forms the biofilm with the exopolysaccharides and other enzymes. Then it becomes very difficult to control them with the antibiotic if there is any infection. So now we wanted to compare the planktonic cells versus the biofilm. The planktonic is a free-floating bacteria. It is a salivary bacteria which won't go on establish colonizing or forms biofilm. So we wanted to check, compare with the biofilm bacteria and the planktonic. For interestingly, the AA, we can produce both them cells, biofilm as well as the smooth strain. That is the planktonic cells. It's a laboratory version. So we treat these 2 bacteria with AA, with different DAS and tested this, which has more potency in planktonic cells when compared to biofilms. But still it has a 1.5 log reductions. So that means it's very difficult to kill them biofilm because of it grows more and it produces a lot of exopolysaccharide, and there are several virulence factors which accumulate into this and prevent the garlic DAS effects. And also we compare this allicin compound, that is the first product of the organosulfur compound with the second product of DAS, which suggests that the DAS has a more potent, as well as, the allicin. The allicin more potent, but it is unstable compound. So that's why we go for DAS. As we know that, even though which has the diallyl sulfide has very effective against the bacteria, but when you treat the patients or when you treat them things, the saliva plays an important role. So because the saliva has a lot of other bacteria and host produce a lot of enzymes, proteins. So how this DAS effective against the bacteria, whether it is prevent or due to other host factors and other bacteria which influence and nullifying this effect of DAS. So what we did is collect the salivary bacteria from subject, patients, and then we treat take that saliva and add the diallyl sulfate directly to the bacteria, incubate them for 2 hours, and also exposure to 1 minute. Because why we choose 1 minute is it's a rinse, like a oral rinse. It's commercially available. So usually we goggle them, things. So 1 minute exposure. So which suggests that 1 minute exposure, the DAS in presence of saliva, which has very effective. So the salivary bacteria very effectively. So we did with both the aerobic and also anaerobic, both the bacteria which has effective against this things. And also we did with the plaque. It's a free floating. The salivary bacteria is a free floating, whereas the plaque bacteria is a biofilm bacteria. So which has also still very effective in 2 hours, but whereas in 1 minute, the killing effect is less, but still it is a statistically significant killing effect. So which suggests that the DAS, even if you are prescribed, you treat the patients with this compound, the salivary factors doesn't influence anything again on the DAS effect. We wanted to prove that whether the DAS has any effect, how this biofilm. So what we did is the confocal microscopy. So what we did is we grow the bacteria, 1 minute exposure to 0.01 microgram per ml. That's the lowest concentration for 1 minute exposure, and then take them out, wash the bacteria, and grow them on the 96 well plate or the cover glass. And then after 2 days, we take them out, thoroughly wash, and take them for confocal microscopy, stain with the live dead cell in dye, and then propydium iodide and cytos, stain it, and then we went for confocal microscopy. This is the top panel is a control panel, that is a healthy tissue. We treated the cells with the PBS. So it's the red panel looks it's a dead cells. The green panel means it's live cells. So when the control cells, you can see a lot of green cells. That means most of the bacteria is alive. So the C is a merge of both A and B. So still when you merge these two filters, which is C, it has more green. That means it's most of them are live. Whereas when you treat it with the DAS, when you look at this, most of the bacteria is dead. So this is this filter. You can use this. You can see less. When you merge these two, you can get this F. When you look at this bacteria, the biofilm, the peripheral region of each bacteria has more red, whereas in the inside you have an orange or yellow color. You know why? This is because the concentration of DAS 0.01 microgram per ml concentration is not enough to penetrate deep into the biofilm. Whereas in the peripheral, immediately when it exposure to short time period, it's only it kills the peripheral biofilm. So which suggests that the concentration, even though it kills the bacteria with more, but when it forms a biofilm, it is not completely killed. So we have to increase the concentration in the future, and we did continue to work on this. And also the scanning electron microscope. So what we did was the same cells we processed for scanning electron microscope. This is a low magnification, which shows that which forms a vigorous biofilm on the surface of um, uh, glass cover. When we go for higher magnification, a typical architecture of the AA. Whereas when you treat it with the DAS, when compared with the A and C, completely most of the bacterial biofilm is removed. When you look at the higher magnification, the typical architecture of the AA biofilm is completely removed, and the traces of bacteria which is on the surface is stick onto the surface, which suggests that the DAS plays an important role and protect against these infections. So far, we talk about how effective this diallyl sulfide, and now we wanted to see whether the compound is 0. What concentration it has cytotoxicity, and the ideal concentration, the one which we use, is 0.01, whether that has any cytotoxic against the cells. So what we did, we grow the oral epithelial cells and then treat with the different concentration of the diallyl sulfide and short time period, and then we add the medium and see whether it has any cytotoxic effect. When you look at this, the higher concentration has a cytotoxic effect, whereas a 0.1 and 0.01 doesn't have any cytotoxic effect. This is a negative control. So this suggests that the working concentration, that is 0.01, which has more, there is no any cytotoxic effect, which also proven by flow cytometry that DAS does not exhibit cell cytotoxicity against OBA9 cells, which also, when you look at this different concentration, the percentage of live cells. So when you look at this, even like 0.01, completely almost it is in 95% of the cells is alive. Even for 0.1, 80%, and 1 microgram per ml, even 65 to 70%. So which suggests that this compound at lower concentration does not have any cytotoxicity against this. And also we did with the light microscopy, when you look at this control, which has a monolayer of the cells grown, and when you treat with the cells also, there is no big differences. When you look at this 0.1 and even the higher concentration, completely the cells are disintegrated, the monolayers are released. So the flow cytometry results also suggest that the 0.01 microgram per ml concentration of the diallyl sulfide has no cytotoxic effect. So the DAS exhibits a significant antimicrobial effect against the periodontopathogen AA, with no cytotoxic effect at its therapeutic concentration in vitro. So we didn't do any in vivo studies. We are working on that now. We wanted to test how this in vitro translate into in vivo model. That's a preclinical study. And also importantly, the DASs are heat stable, and their antimicrobial properties are unaffected by the presence of saliva. That's another interesting feature of our study. All these properties of DAS make them attractive candidates for use as a therapeutic agents for treating oral diseases. Further studies are needed to understand and define the mechanism of action of the DAS against AA and other systemic pathogens in animal model to establish the safety of these agents in regular use. Prevention rather than in therapy is where the effectiveness of garlic probably lies. However, to obtain the preventative benefits of garlic, long-term supplementation may be necessary. although garlic has been used safely in cooking as a popular condiment or flavoring and used traditionally for medicinal purposes, it is commonly known as excessive consumption of garlic can cause problem as well. As we are all know that the garlic odor on breath and skin and occasional allergic reactions are also recognized. Reports since 1932 have revealed that the following adverse effects also associated with the raw garlic and garlic powder. So one of the following are the side effects. One is the stomach disorders and diarrhea, possibly some of the patients reported. Decrease of serum protein and calcium level. Some patients, they have like anemic, bronchial asthma possible, contacted dermatitis, and also inhibition of spermatogenesis. Even though the organosulfur compounds plays an important role in killing effect, the oil-soluble sulfur compounds are known irritant and allergens. Topically applied diallyl sulfate is the most allergic that also they reported. The following toxicity effects of garlic were reported in 1990. That is, allicin is one of the major irritants in raw garlic. And also oil-soluble sulfur compounds are more toxic than water-soluble. When garlic is extracted in certain period, its toxicity is greatly reduced. That is what we wanted to study more on garlic. Even though there is side effects and other things, the lowest concentration when we use the diallyl sulfide, we don't see any cytotoxic effect on our study. So we can try more studies on this. When you go for clinical or preclinical study, we will find more details about the lowest concentrations effect on these conditions. On the other hand, the safety of the garlic has been well established by the following studies: acute and subacute toxicity test, and also chronic toxicity test also done, mutagenicity test also done, general toxicity test, and toxicity test conducted by USDA. Clinical studies also conducted on 1,000 subjects. So that they established, and now the lowest concentration of garlic and the extraction procedure is established, and that won't affect all this. So far we did with the garlic, and its effects, and also a single compound, not the whole garlic extract. A single compound has more effect on the particular bacteria. We did also Porphyromonas gingivalis, that is the bacteria which calls adult people has the more periodontitis, and also the Streptococcus mutans as well. We did all these studies. It's under the preparation for publications. And also very interestingly, we did with the very pilot study on rosmarinic acid. The rosemary is plant has a polyphenolic compound which is isolated from rosemary plant, and this plant known to have antimicrobial, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory properties. Rosemary has been a number of applications, therapeutic ability to prevent Alzheimer's disease, enhancing memory and concentration, slowing down the cancer, improves the digestion, and its antimicrobial properties make it unique to be used as a preventive measure for dental caries. So what we did is, so based on these things, we grow the bacteria, Streptococcus mutans, and add the rosmarinic acid, not the whole extract, a single compound. So that is our main goal, is to get a single compound, and how it is the compound is preventive measures. So then we grow the bacteria, incubate with the rosmarinic acid, and count the colonies, establish the biofilm and count the colonies. When you look at this, the figure 2, as we mentioned here, the 96 well plates, we can show the differences. The rosmarinic has C and D has more effect, prevent biofilm growth when compared to the PBS treated Streptococcus mutans. And also which shows that the CFU count when your rosmarinic plant extract has more potent anti-Streptococcus mutants activities when compared to the PBS treated one, which also evidenced by showing the scanning electron microscope, the PBS has a lot of biofilm on the surface of the 96 well plates when compared to the rosmarinic acid treated one. So based on this study, we concluded that this study demonstrated that antimicrobial activities of rosmarinic acid against Streptococcus mutants effectively prevented the growth of biofilm formation. Further experiments are needed to ensure its potential as a novel antimicrobial therapy. So with this, I wanted to finish my talk. I don't want to drag anymore, as I would like to thank you all to listen to me like last 35 to 40 minutes. It's a great pleasure to meet you all. Usually when we come to the visit India, we used to go different universities, meet my friends and give them my experience and talk things. But this one, unfortunately, we could not able to go out and come to India. But this is another opportunity to, Zoom and virtual, meeting, which gives direct seeing all you. Thank you very much with your time. Of course, everybody, most of them are at home. Be safe, everyone. Now in India is every day we saw the reports. It's coronavirus reports is increasing, going up. Be safe and thank you very much. And I would like to acknowledge all my students and colleagues with all these things, and also support by NIH fund and also my foundation, UMDNJ foundations. Thank you again all. If you have any questions or something, please feel free to ask me. Kumaran,
Sir, dear participant, any question is you can ask. Sir, mute, unmute, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear participant, any question means you can raise your hand. Sir, unmute. Hello. Any question? Nisanti, are you there? Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, today for your wonderful talk. And we learned a lot of information from you. I think there is morning 3 o'clock, right, sir?
Yeah, it's like 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay. Yeah. Now I request Dr. K. Sindhya, Department of Botany, Periyar University, Arur College, for vote of thanks.
Good morning to all. This is Dr. K. Sindhil, Periyar University College of Arts and Science, Arur. I would like to thank to our Honorable Chief Vice Chancellor and Registrar of Periyar University for permit to conduct the international seminar. I very much thank to Professor Dr. V. Kabilan, USA, delivered a very wonderful lecture today session, and given useful information about oral disease and effective therapy of using of natural product of garlic. I thank to our friend Dr. Ravi, Career University College, Yadapadi, helping to this international seminar for technical support. I would like to very much thank to our Dr. S. Kumaran, convener of this international seminar. Is very good, effective to organize all speakers and participants. Once again, I thank to Dr. Kabilan sir. I'm very thankful, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Okay, everybody, you have a wonderful day. For me, it's night. See you all.
Sir, good. Sir, thank you so much, sir. I now
Yeah.
YouTube live more than 500 participants is seeing, sir.
Yeah.
YouTube live.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sir, good. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I will.